And I'm a little bit biased, only because I've known Kristin for like 10 years, and I was her home inspector for a long time, and did a lot of inspections for her team. But this is a testament to the fact that the relationships that we build as home inspectors really do run deep. Because as I've come over here to Porch, it's you've been touring and speaking all over the country with realtors, but really the concepts that I've heard her speak on. They translate across industries, right? We're talking about everything from leadership to personal development, and it's just awesome. But more importantly than that, the fact that you can take these connections that you've made in business. We have a little, I guess, kind of an interesting twist here. I got invited to go to Mexico one time, and the director of this organization that I went with called me up and went, "Hey, we're running a little bit short on people. Do you have anybody crazy enough to go to Mexico spur of the moment in a few days?" And I said, "As a matter of fact, I know someone with pink hair who might." And so I called Kristin, and she was like, "Yeah, not only am I going to try to go, but I want to bring my entire team as well, building team and all of that." And now she's the chairwoman of the board for our nonprofit, the Allo Family. So not only does she speak and teach about leadership, she puts her money where her mouth is. So I hope you guys enjoy, tune in and listen. Let's take it away.
Thank you, Brad. All right. This is my entire box that I'm allowed to stay in. So I'll elaborate on that, and I actually have Brad to thank and credit for the trajectory of my life after that trip. I have been a successful realtor for many years now, and at some point that became no longer enough. I had all the success on paper, I had done everything, climbed every mountain, and I really started to hate the business. I really started to resent my clients, I started to resent working. And after I went to that trip, I realized that there was purpose to my time. And I now had a reason to go sell more houses because I needed to come back and help more people. And so that's actually carved an entirely different path for me. And after that, I became 3 times more successful. So that did not suck. And in my success, I've been able to carve a few additional paths, and as Brad said, I've been traveling all over the world talking to other leaders in the industry to help them, because what I've found is that success doesn't bring happiness, and that we get in our own way when trying to pursue success. So before we launch into the science of success here, I have a few questions. Is everyone in the room a home inspector? Raise your hand if you are. Okay, and those of you that are not, what are you? Consultant? Okay. What? Realtor? Oh, hey. Marketing? Okay. Operations? Owner. Hello. Okay. All right, great. So tell me, what's the most difficult thing that you're facing today in your business? Show of hands. Anybody raise your hand? Yes. Time. Okay. Anybody else? You guys got it? All right, well, thank you for the class. The door is right there. Keep coming. What's hard?
Hiring.
Hiring? Yeah, people are difficult. What else you got? Leads? Those are hard to find. As home inspectors, raise your hand if you're responsible for lead generation. Okay, the rest of you, are the leads fed to you by somebody else who's doing the lead generation? Okay, has anyone ever been to an inspection where the father shows up and gives you a really hard time? Anybody sank a deal before from a home inspection and got blamed for it? Yeah? Does anybody get tired of being in the industry that you're in?
Yes.
Louder, right in the front. She's like, yes, I am so tired of being here. Amen, sister. So I want to make sure that I'm giving you what you want. You came to this class. It was marketed as, interestingly enough, Accidentally by Design, which is a different class. This is the science of success. But there's some elements of Accidentally by Design, and I'll tell you what that means because that's why you came. So Accidentally by Design was formed as the path of an entrepreneur. Those of us who are entrepreneurs have to kind of DIY, and we make choices, and then we show up on the path, and there's a fork in the road, and then we make a choice, and then we have to go with that. And we walk a little bit longer, and we make another choice, and we don't necessarily intend to end up where we did. We just kind of started and say, I wonder what would happen if I put these two things together. And that's how my life has gone. Every choice that I've made has presented another choice, another choice. And fortunately, it's been pretty successful along the way only because I didn't give up. I'm like the best failer ever. I'm not a failure, I'm just a failer. I'm like, whoop, that didn't work, try again. Make another choice, right? So the entrepreneurial mindset is essentially the path that we're taking and the choices along the way. And so there's some elements in this presentation, and I'll illuminate them when we get there. But the whole purpose is to be more purposeful with our time, with our choices, and with our mindset. Now, the science of success was born, as I said, of traveling around and meeting with some of the most successful people I have ever met in my life, including billionaires. And they're miserable, and some of them are actually broke. For people with a lot of money who generate a lot of money, cash flow is tight. Does anybody feel that? Ever? Okay, well, if not, you can give me donations on the way out. All right, now I gotta find my clicker. So I've been studying quantum physics for the last 6 years, which is really interesting. And my father is a psychologist, and this has led me down several different rabbit holes. So now I'm a somatic healer, I'm a student of Ayurveda, I'm a breathwork facilitator. I've done all of the things, all of the modalities to figure out how the brain works and why we do what we do. Self-sabotage is a thing. I think the brain is the most complex system, but it's so dumb. Did you know that? It's like this crazy network of neurons and neural pathways and like the most beautiful connections, and it looks insane. And then you study it and you're like, wait, but at the end of the day, all of this is actually guided by thought. That's it. Just thought. So let's dig in a little bit. Again, imagine you've built this great big business, you're very successful, and it just doesn't feel good. Systems in sales. I have created so many systems in sales, so I'll tell you a little secret. I actually don't sell houses anymore. I have a team that does it, and we do about $60 million a year, and most of my time is spent teaching and speaking and traveling with my kids. And that's because, I told you before, I was resenting the work that I was in. And I got really passionate about helping people with their mindset. And I couldn't have been more flabbergasted to meet all these successful people and see just how big the suck was on the inside. So many animations here. So through that, the brand, The Uncommon Alchemist, was born. And this is where I actually work with leaders one-on-one. We figure out what the big rock is in their mindset. It might be a trauma pattern showing up in their life, preventing them from really being successful, having difficult relationships. We talked about hiring. Hiring is all about managing people, and that's where it gets really complicated. So I bring in some of those modalities that I talked to you about before to help people reset their internal systems, mind, body, and spirit, because everything shows up in your mind, and physical manifestations of symptoms. Anybody here have anything wrong with their body today? Yeah, right? It's getting out of bed is like, ooh, I feel every inch of my age right now. And so what I do in this work is to guide the leader, because I can give you all of the systems. I can give you all of the lead generation, but it doesn't matter if the leader is broken. All right, are you with me so far? You gonna take this ride for a little bit? Let's go. Okay, so have you heard of the be, do, have model? It's something pretty widely taught in positive psychology. Raise your hand if you have. All right, what I found was interesting, and I think how most of us show up in the world, is that we have our priorities out of order. So the victim shows up and says, well, if I just had more time, more money, more knowledge, more people, more something else that someone else had, if I just had more of it, then I could do what I need to do, and I would be happy. And then we show up as a victim to say, well, it's not my fault. I don't have this thing. If I had it, then it would be great, but I don't. So I'm not in control of the outcome. I'm just a helpless victim. Or if I just do all the things, if I do more work, if I do better, if I do harder, if I do faster, then I'll have money and I can be happy. I will just run myself right into the ground. How many home inspections do you have to do in a week before you're like, this isn't cutting it? Like one more crawl space and I'm jumping off this bridge, right? All right, so the winner. If we transform the person that we need to become, who do I need to be to do the things I need to do to have what I want? The better question is, what is it that you want to have? If you could do anything right now and money was no object, what would you do? You don't have to answer that out loud, but I do want you to consider it. So if we're the leader first and then we do those things, when I become the person that I need to become, I will see exactly what I need to do, whether that's a system or hiring or one hard conversation. I can't tell you how many successes are blocked by avoiding just one hard conversation. Can you guys think of one conversation that you're avoiding right now that if you did it, it would make everything else easier or unnecessary? Okay, so put that in your pocket along with the thing that you want to have once you become the person that you need to be to do the things you need to do. And you will have exponential results. Okay, so this is one of my favorite graphics because it shows the infinite cycle of how we continue to lead ourselves. So when we show up as the victim, we're going to consistently reap the consequences of our actions. So we've got our reality on the left side, and the things that we tend to do, the patterns that we fall into, which then create the actions that we take, and then we cycle it right back. Then we get to experience the consequences of our actions, and we go right back into reality. So if we learn to know ourselves, then we can lead ourselves, and then we can change the beginning of that cycle so that our outcomes are not the same, and we're not stuck in this vicious loop. We spend a lot of our time in reactive mode. So somebody else is presenting a problem or a desire, and we respond to that. And we spend all day in reaction mode, and we're not very purposeful with our time or our energy or our calendar. And what happens is we end up serving everyone else and depleting our systems. We all know you have to put on your oxygen mask first, right? We've heard that. But we don't. We just stay in the grind and we show up and we do the thing, and we don't spend a lot of time really considering who we are on the inside. And we often are looking in the mirror as a representation through someone else's lens. So I'm looking at you and I'm seeing how you're responding to me, and that becomes my identity. You're reflecting back to me and I see your response and I'm like, that's who I am. And then you end up in an industry hating your job, hating people, insert blank, right? Some sort of unhappiness or some lack of success. So what I ended up doing, and this is my own personal journey, I ended up learning how to meditate. Do you know how hard that is? It's gross. It's so, so hard. And any successful entrepreneur out there will tell me, oh, I can't do that. My brain is like way too crazy busy up here. 30 seconds. Plus, it sounds really boring. And I don't want to do that. And the reality is, we also, even if we could get it to quiet down and sit there and kind of be bored for like 10 minutes, I'm not sure I'd be real comfortable with what comes up. Because a lot of it is negative thinking. We're our own worst critic. So spending time in the quiet with ourselves can be a really scary place, and we have to go and hear those hard truths that we're not listening to. But I'm here to tell you that if you actually do it, then you can figure out the thing that you want to have and the person that you need to become. So when we look at this again, if we could say, if I just got out of this loop, then I could be somewhere else. I could make forward progress. All right, stick with me. There's something called the Insecurity Project. Hyman Fraser is his name, if you want to look it up, and I can send you a link. And it's essentially a quiz. And you answer a series of questions, and it shows you how your insecurities show up and impact the major categories of your life. a lot of them represented here. So this is my results. So my own insecurities was impacting my work, my health, and my relationships. And those, I would argue, are probably three of the most important ones. So again, I'll tell you my story. I had succeeded, and I was at the front of the room, and I'm talking all around the country, and I'm selling a lot of homes. And I felt like an imposter. I felt, because I don't have a college education, and I didn't feel like I had earned my spot. And I have spent my entire life overachieving from a very young age because I started my career at the government when I was 17 years old. So I've been pretending since I was 17 to be somebody that I'm not. Except, spoiler alert, obviously I was. I was showing up and doing the work, right? But I could not understand that for the life of me. So there's people with capital T trauma and lower T trauma, and I'm here to tell you that it doesn't really matter which one you are. That impacts the rest of your life and every single thing that you do. So we all have some kind of trauma. And what happens is it creates a lens, and you look at your life and you respond in that conditioning and that programming. So it's showing up for me as imposter syndrome and anxiety. 3 o'clock in the morning when the anxiety monster comes to get you. Anybody have that? Yeah, it's so not fun. So I looked at this and I was like, oh my gosh, my own insecurities are showing up and sabotaging work. What happened is I was leading a team, and I didn't know how to lead a team. I was just a really successful realtor, and somebody showed up and they were like, you are very busy and you need help and I need a job, so I'm gonna come work for you. And I was like, okay, great. Like, you like wine? I like wine. We're going to California? Let's carpool. Yeah, not a great idea when you don't know what you're doing. And so I did the best I could. I made all the best choices that I could make. But what happened is, because I wasn't a strong enough leader, I was letting these people redecorate the room and tell me what to do. And every choice I made, they told me why that wasn't okay or why they wanted something different. So the tail was wagging the dog, and I was emotionally hostage leading this team. And I was like, I need them because I can't be as good as I am without them. Well, in 2020, a month after the COVID shutdown, we decided to change brokerages. We moved from one KW office to another. And I didn't realize that for 4 months, my two best friends that I had hired were plotting to stay behind and steal half of my team and my IP. A month after the COVID shutdown, I'm like alone at a new brokerage with a couple of people that stayed on my team. This was the worst year of my life, and not just because there was a pandemic. Like, that was the least of my problems. I lost so many relationships because I was just so miserable, and I thought, I am a terrible person, and I was just full of shame and failure, and I let that impact my other relationships. Good news, that's not the end of the story. I'm here, right? 5 years later. So when we took the results of the insecurity project, and we did a SWOT analysis. You guys know what a SWOT analysis is? All right, so we're playing a little defense in your life. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? How is that creating opportunity for you with those strengths? And where are the threats? So, I get to use the pointer. So this is the category that we want to pay attention to, because this is going to show up, right? Opportunities are going to present themselves because you already have the strengths. The question is, with the weaknesses, how are they showing up? And what here do I need to prevent? Or do I just need to lean into my strengths rather than spending time trying to be perfect in all categories? Do I just say, you know what, there's some things that I'm just not good at, and I'm going to leverage somebody else to do that, so I can just lean hard into my strength? So this is the crossroads that we come to, and we're like, okay, I can either beat myself up for not being perfect, and guess what? I don't do details. Like, my husband will buy me flowers and leave them on the counter, and it will now it's a game to see how long it takes me to notice. Once there were Mother's Day flowers, it was a week later, and they were dead. And I was like, why are there dead flowers on the counter? And he's like, oh, so you didn't notice them? And I said, well, obviously not. Thank you so much for the effort. But it wasn't a detail that was important to me, and I wasn't looking for it, I wasn't expecting it, so I just didn't notice. And guess how that shows up in my work? There's a lot of details I miss. However, I'm a renowned strategist. So if I do care about it, I will out-strategize you because I know every single nuance and detail within that rabbit hole. Okay, so when we have made the choice that this is what I need to work on, this is what I'm not going to bother with because I have these superpowers, then we proceed with what we want to have, who we want to be, what do we need to do, right? Not in that order. The mindset dictates your actions, which creates your results. I think we already know that, but from a scientific perspective, I find this fascinating. Have you heard in quantum physics, it's thought, vibration, wave, particle? No? I've lost you. Okay, well, quantum physics is actually very sexy. There is a book called The Biology of Belief, and it's a cellular biology book, which will actually take the woo out of manifesting. It explains how our cells and the quantum atom actually has antenna around it that responds and interchanges to accept and release information in your body in every cell. So we put food in our body and like stuff starts happening and the systems start running. Those antennae are the traffic directors in our body. But what they couldn't figure out was what is it that the antenna is receiving? Because there was no direct correlation, and you just see these little antennae moving this way and that way as if it was like reaching for the sun. Turns out it's thought. That is, thought creates energy. So when I say that your thoughts or your mindset dictates your actions, I literally mean it scientifically. So thought, vibration, wave, particle is the quantum physics simple explanation that everything is a wave until it's observed and then it becomes matter and it's a particle. So like, I think we all know that this chair is not actually solid, right? It's just really slow moving atoms. Back to like 7th grade science, 8th grade science, I can't remember. So The Biology of Belief is the book that actually broke it down. So there's Harvard studies, and there's a series of professors, and I think Sean Aker is one of them. And he's the most fabulous presenter I've ever seen, and he spoke so fast and dropped so much knowledge that I couldn't even take notes because I couldn't get it out fast enough. So I apologize that you get the second best, which is me representing what he told me. Optimistic salespeople outsell pessimists by 37%. So you don't even have to have a better education. Case in point, I have no college degree, but I've outsold almost every single real estate agent in my area because I'm a freaking Pollyanna. I'm such an optimist. I just see opportunity everywhere, and I'm like, that's the greatest thing ever. I want to help you. Let me go show you how this can happen. What's even more interesting is that it's the out of all the salespeople, the top 20% are optimistic, outselling everyone else by 37%, and 80% of the 20% outsell everyone else by 80%, just by being an optimist. Who here is an optimist? Who's a pessimist? Who's a realist? Okay, so if you would like to change that and be the best darn salesperson ever, there's a couple things in store for you. Also, would you like to live longer? Yeah, back to the thought, vibration, wave, particle. The atomic level, the cellular level, the negative thinking actually destructs all of the patterns in your body, and I'll show you the science behind that later. Oop. I'm gonna have to ask them not to put so many animations next time. So optimism boosts creativity and team engagement. I think yes. Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton. He's a cellular biologist teaching in one of the islands. He was teaching doctors in medical school. An 11% higher profit just from being an optimist. So I can give you systems, I can give you lead generation tactics and hacks, but also if we just start thinking happy thoughts, 11% more profit. Who wants that? Now, the flip side, I told you negative thinking can destroy all the systems in your body. Chronic stress leads to 23% drop in productivity. That's a no-brainer, right? I'm stressed out, I can't do it. I might spin and spiral over a particular task. I might be tired or sick, so I just won't do it. And the negative self-talk and stress habits just further perpetuates that cycle, back to the infinite loop we were talking about before. So stress begets stress, optimism begets success. So if you would like to become an optimist or more of an optimist, if you take this habit for 60 days, after 30 days, you will be 20% more optimistic. And that's compounded. So every 30 days after that, a 20% improvement in your optimism, just by having a daily gratitude practice. So when you wake up in the morning, find 3 things to be grateful for. I don't care if it's the ceiling, your shoes, a toothbrush, it doesn't matter. What we're looking for is pattern recognition. Again, your brain is super complex, but also really dumb. So by training your brain to look for the positive, you'll continue to look for the positive. There's a study called the Tetris effect. Has anybody heard of this? So the Tetris effect, they had a group of people play Tetris for like 16 hours a day. Yeah, I want that job. 16 hours a day for a certain period of time. And they found that when they were released, they were constantly in pattern recognition. So they would go to the grocery store and start reorganizing the shelves at the grocery store and like repacking the trunk of their car for a trip because this is what they were doing and their brain was used to that pattern recognition. On the flip side, auditors had like the highest suicide rates. Yeah, crazy, because guess what? They're always looking for the bad. And what are home inspectors doing? Oh, whoops. You guys are trained to find problems. And then guess what? You go home and you look at your spouse, and what do you see? A problem. All the problems. Until they're so loud, the cacophony of noise is like, I definitely can't meditate now. I have to figure out where to bury the body. Right? Okay, so have I convinced you that optimism is healthy? Cool. Since your brain is trained to look for the bad, you have to counterbalance that with your habits and just understand that this, while that's a wonderful superpower, it's going to show up in your life negatively. And your positive mindset makes you smarter. So I guess the Pollyanna outweighed my college degree because I'm so freaking smart. I'm so smart. It's like 100 billion IQ points. I measured. And the happy employees are 37% more productive. Google, in the environment that they have in their offices, why do they do that? Make them happy and they will be more productive. Also, invincible. There's nothing I can't do when I'm happy. I'm a visionary. So if you just let me like craft things and be creative, I'm the happiest woman ever. And if you make me manage people and get down into the details, I will murder you. Very unhappy. Doctors diagnose 19% faster when they're optimistic. 19% faster. Can you imagine all those problems that we said we have in our body right now? If we could figure it out almost 20% faster? Great. I'm out of pain 20% faster. Okay, another fun study. If you are standing at the base of a mountain and you are alone, that mountain is going to appear 30% taller. But if you have a friend, it appears 30% shorter. And if you do the math, that's more than half. So suddenly you're climbing a little hill because the power of community and the power of connection and the power of engagement. Because what happens when we're with people that we like? Endorphins, optimism, it's just science. Go make friends. Okay, here's where we get really sciencey. Everybody know what the vagus nerve is? It's not the one where you go gambling, but it is the super highway that connects the base of your brain all the way through to your gut, which your gut is what controls everything in your body, right? Our immune system, it's where we break down food and we tell the body what to do. It's how we make tissues, it's how we make blood, it's how our mind is controlled, it's how our organs function. The interesting thing about the vagus nerve is look how many things it's connected to. It's got like spider octopus tentacles. It's connected to every single thing. So when the cells are traveling up and down the vagus nerve, if they are replicated poorly or if they have some of this negative attachment, it's wreaking havoc on everything it passes. It's like a crazy driver on the highway. Like, what do you call it? Weaving and tailgating. That's what word I was looking for. It's like road rage. Your cells are having road rage in your body and wreaking havoc on, it's like banging everything down the tree on the way down, okay? This goes so quickly. And if you'll notice, like fortunately I'm not a nervous speaker, but I'm a very nervous singer. If you ask me to sing right now, I will literally hit the floor and cry and hyperventilate and panic. But I could speak in front of thousands and I won't even blink. That's controlled by your vagus nerve. It's that connection. So if you feel overwhelmed, angry, any kind of emotion, it's running up and down the superhighway. I'll give you a quick little hack. So if you ever feel emotion, first of all, emotion lives in your body for 90 seconds as a physical experience, and then it stops. And if you don't process that emotion, it will stay in your body for 7 years. And that manifests as physical stress, like if your hip hurts or your foot hurts or whatever. That's a collection of unprocessed emotions. So fun. As I was saying, to reset the vagus nerve, there's a bunch of different ways to do it. If you put your hands behind your head, everybody gets to do this right now. Both hands, like that. Cool. Now, pull your elbows back as far as they can go. Turn your head to one side. Open your mouth and breathe. At some point, your body's going to produce a yawn. When your body produces a yawn, you have reset your vagus nerve. And you can do it again on the other side so it's balanced, left brain, right brain. It's cool. It's going to happen. And it could take 10 seconds, it could take 5 minutes, but you're resetting your vagus nerve. Another strategy is a breathing pattern. You breathe in for 3 seconds, out for 5 seconds, and then you increase to in for 5, out for 8, and then 8 to 13. So if you're angry or if you're having a panic attack or something like that, you do this breathing pattern, it resets your vagus nerve. It's just science. But it also dictates how we respond to stress. So if we're regulating the fight and flight versus rest and digest, people with capital T trauma, it lives in your subconscious, and it overcomplicates the system and doesn't allow it to go into that rest and digest state. In fact, early onset Parkinson's is closely related to a personality profile of capital T trauma survivors with highly intelligent martyr complex. So they're the doers. It's the do, be, have, highly, highly intelligent trauma survivors because they live on adrenaline and cortisol, and their body never gets into the rest and digest phase, and then early onset Parkinson's sets in, and you see how that wreaks havoc on the body. Science. The high vagal tone for the resilience and calm versus the stress stuck in survival mode. This is why I say that the nervous system is your greatest business tool, because every single thing we do relates to what is scientifically going on in our body. So I'm going to go into the reticular activating system here in a minute. But what's important about the optimism and rewiring the neural pathways so that we can engage our nervous system to drive our bodies and our minds where we need to go is that it can be done. So everything that happens to us before the age of 7 is our conditioning. And if we need to rewire that, we have to do it when our brain is in a theta state. So there's several different brain waves. Delta, as you know, is when you're sleeping, in your deep sleep. And beta is when you're in your high action mode. That's when you're getting shit done during the day. Alpha is a little slower than that. And theta is that state right before you go to sleep, that sort of twilight state, and right as you wake up. So if you're going to practice this gratitude practice, to find 3 things to be happy about, do it right as you're falling asleep or right as you're waking up. I suggest starting with right as you wake up because it will set the tone for your entire day. And when we're in this chronic stress mode, if we start with the gratitude practice and then 11 minutes of meditation, we're bringing the nervous system down to a calmer state. And then as the stress presents itself during the day and our cortisol starts ramping up, we're starting from a lower state. So if we hadn't done that, we ramp up to here, then we're like in a tizzy, right? And we're super anxious and unhappy, angry maybe even. But if we bring it down, then we're getting up to like a normal state. And if you want to get really professional about it and you want to meditate for another 10 minutes at lunchtime, it brings you back down so you never actually hit that peak mountaintop of stress. Let me just check my time here. Oh, what time is it? Okay, thank you. So the loops that we talked about before is because our brain is conditioned in those neural pathways. The neural pathways are like the ski tracks. You know, when you're skiing down a mountain, you see somebody else's tracks, and you're like, oh, that's just easier for me to go there than to carve my own tracks. If we reprogram the brain when it's in the theta state, that's exactly what we're doing. We're carving new paths. When we have trauma loops, that's because we have associated something that has happened to us with an outcome or a feeling or a scent, and that's a neural pathway. It's just a connection. So our brain instantly travels that. So, like, I have a fear of toilets. That's a really unfortunate fear. I didn't pick that one. I don't know exactly what happened to give me that, but every time I hear a toilet flush, I'm like, ugh! It's awful. It's like the scariest noise ever. And I've largely outgrown it because I had to potty train 3 children. But that's just something that my brain did, and I did not understand why I had to have this particular fear. And so I went, and I actually have done like hypnosis. That's another way to get into theta state. There's a bunch, remind me to tell you a bunch of different ways to get your brain into theta state. And I can happily use toilets without a problem. Let me know when this gets to be TMI. Oh, that ship sailed. Okay. So I think it's really exciting that you actually have the power to reprogram your mind. It's just a big, dumb database. And isn't that amazing that we can then make it do whatever we want to do? Like, there's literally nothing you can't do. And that's why people are all into this manifestation. Like, oh, I'm just going to manifest a Porsche. So there's actually this woman I know, and she's married to a fintech billionaire, and she made this really deaf post on social media the other day, and she was like, I was going through my manifestation practices, and I said when I met my goals that I was going to have a Porsche, and so I'm manifesting all of my success so I can have a Porsche. And I kid you not, the next week my husband walked in and was like, hey babe, the Porsche dealership called, and they had this like Cayenne or whatever model it is, like, do you want it? And she was like, oh my God, I manifested that. And I was like, no, you married a fintech bro. That's not how this works. And that's why people don't respect the woo-woo behind the manifestation, because they don't understand science. They're just like, well, if I just like think really hard and I like feel it in my body, I'm gonna get a Porsche. And like, see, I proved it because my husband showed up with a Porsche. You actually have to do the work in most cases, or you can marry a fintech bro, but you know, I didn't, so. This is my favorite, and I'm going to say it in the mic for the recording. Manifestation is neuroscience with better branding. Because it seems so easy to just be like, I just like thought about it really hard and I got a Porsche. Instead of, I had a gratitude practice and a meditation practice, and I studied quantum physics, and I changed my habits, and I showed up as a better communicator and a better leader and better relationships, and then I did the things that I needed to do to become successful so I can have everything that I want to have. That's like a lot of steps when you can just be like, I just thought about it really hard. But it's the truth. So when I was pregnant, guess what I saw? I saw everyone was pregnant when I was pregnant. Like everyone. Everywhere I went was just babies, babies, babies. Kind of like people who drive Jeeps and they collect little ducks in the Jeeps. When you drive a Jeep and you're looking for other Jeeps and ducks, you're going to see them. Like everybody drives a Jeep. I drive a Tesla. Everyone drives a Tesla. So whatever you're training your brain to look for, you're going to find it. So if you're looking for opportunity, if you're looking for happiness, if you're looking for gratitude, it's just a habit, a really good habit. Okay, so the reticular activating system is my favorite. Does anybody know what this is? No? Okay. The reticular activating system is your brain's filter, and it is effectively your supercomputer. So when you're in utero, you're in your mother's belly, you're actually starting to build your reticular activating system. And if you think of it as one column of information data stack. So every time you have an experience, it gets layered in there. And the next time you have that same experience, it goes and your brain goes and searches the database for data on that experience. And that's why I'm afraid of toilets. Something happened in an early experience with the toilet. I think I fell in and got stuck when I was little. And so every time thereafter, I was like, I'm gonna fall in and get stuck, and then it's gonna flush and it's gonna make this horrible sound. So all it is just a series of data stack of experiences. And if you want to take out one of those files and replace it with something else, that's the theta state I was talking about. So you can go back and rewire whatever cartridge is in that data stack that isn't serving you well, whatever pattern, whatever thought process that you have isn't serving you well, just take it out. What you focus on expands. So if you're back to finding problems in your spouse and you cannot stand how they sound when they chew, and that sound is going to get louder and louder and louder and louder until we're burying bodies, right? So this is your reticular activating system. In that theta state, with the rewiring, hypnosis is a way to get into theta state. Has anybody been through hypnosis? So it's not necessarily like that you're getting sleepy and then suddenly you're like barking like a dog and you don't understand why in the grocery store. It's really just a way to bring your, it's called transient hypofrontality, when the front ego thinking mind turns off and it opens a portal into your subconscious, and that's how we're rewiring in the theta state. So it's just that like calm, quiet, repetitive, like a lullaby for your brain. So that's one way. Breath work is another, and I don't mean the concepts I gave you earlier. I mean like conscious, connected, circular breathing, where you're in a oxygen or a CO2 depletion state, and that will actually create the transient hypofrontality. The gratitude practice in the early waking hours or the twilight hours. Psilocybin, I'm not recommending that you go do drugs, but it is one of the ways. And there's several other. I should get the full list and let you guys peruse that. But the nervous system legitimately opens the pathway for you to do anything that you want to do. Now, I show you this slide because remember that woman I was talking to you about in 2020 who had the team that ran off and created the mutiny? She's actually not on this, but I have this headshot. We call it Senator Kristin, where I have this like blonde bob and the white pearls, because that's the picture of success in DC, which is where I live. You got to look like a senator if you want people to take you seriously, or so I thought. And so I had been showing up like this woman who's more like the woman on the left for years and years and years and years and years. Until I had a surgery and I was in my convalescing period and I went and turned my hair purple and I was like, oh, that's really fun. Nobody needed to see me for 6 weeks, so I could take that risk. And when I came back to work, my hair was still purple and my team was so horrified, they wanted to put wigs on me. They said, we can't put you in front of our clients. Like that's really embarrassing. And I was like, really? You think my hair color is gonna keep people from buying and selling houses with us? And then the mutiny happened. I kid you not. I had purple hair, so they all quit. And as you can see, there's a progression. I'm holding, oh, here, I get to use the clicker again. Those are like 27 awards that I won. This is the cover of a magazine I was on. And this is just badass version of me. And so there's a physical transformation that took place since 2017 until now. And I apologize that my hair is not blue. I'm getting it done on Thursday. So just imagine if my hair was blue and green right now, as it usually is. But the physical transformation was just an outward representation of the internal journey that I took. And now, just a few days ago, I repeated 2020, and I took my team from one brokerage to another. And we had 2 days to do it. It was a very big and dramatic thing because in our industry, when you switch jerseys, it's like, oh my God, the top producer just left. And it's kind of like football, when you switch teams. And I had this moment in the evening, and my PTSD moment, because the last time that happened, I lost half my team and friends, and it was the worst year of my life. And I showed back up to work the next day, and they were all like, oh, Captain, my captain. It was the most beautiful cultural experience I've ever had, and the universe just opened up, and it started raining opportunities, and I'm on all kinds of stages now, and there's like a huge PR campaign about it. And it was a very different experience than last time, and I thought, how beautiful is that my internal journey led me to repeat the exact same thing with a very different outcome. And you can too. So I do offer the packages that I was telling you about for one-on-one coaching if you find that there's like one really big rock that you haven't moved yet and you just need that to get out of the way. But the topics that I shared with you earlier, it's a DIY journey. At the end of the day, I encourage you to just spend time with yourself and ask yourself the questions. I assume that there's people in here that have been in a relationship before in their lives. How did you get in that relationship? How did you get there? Did you just grab some handcuffs and slap them on somebody?
I was on the second date.
The second date. Yeah, I should probably have a different opener. No, you spent quality time asking questions and observing. Right? You were in close proximity with that person and you were interested in the outcome and the answers. When was the last time you did that with yourself? There's also a values exercise that I would encourage you to take in addition to the Insecurity Project and those 2 books I told you about. There's a values exercise where you get this laundry list of words on a page and you have to distill it down to 1. So what is your number 1 value? What are you going to get out of bed for every single day and put 2 feet on the floor? And it's words like honesty, communication, integrity, power, right? It's pick 100 different adjectives. A lot of people were like, honesty, that's my number 1 value. And I was like, really? You're going to jump out of bed every day, put 2 feet on the floor? I'm like, I can't wait to be honest today. Let's get out of here. I can't wait to not lie. No. But that's how misguided we are in our value system. So when I went through the exercise, I was very surprised to find that my number 1 value wasn't like parenting, it wasn't family, it was adventure. Everything that I do, I will jump out of bed for adventure. You want to go scuba diving? Let's go. You want to go sing in public? Not that. You want to travel the world? I'll do it. You want to build a team? You want to start a business? You want to come up with a new idea? And I'm like, off I go. How easy it is to live my life now purposefully because I can look at it through a filter not given by somebody else with the reticular activating system and that capital T trauma, but the value that I prescribed for my life that fulfills me. It's adventure. So just something new. So I realize I've got to build. I just want to build stuff. Give me some Legos. I will build companies every Tuesday, and I can only do it for 5 years. At the end of 5 years, I got to go do something else, which means when I build something, I have to build it in such a way that someone else can take it over in 5 years. And now I'm not stuck in business that I don't want to be in, stuck doing things I don't want to do, and I'm out there traveling, speaking, teaching, doing charity work, traveling with my kids. And I'm happy, and I'm a better, more powerful, more connected leader that doesn't have the 3 a.m. anxiety monster anymore. So all of this is just an invitation to become the highest and best version of yourself, but you have to figure out who you are today to figure out the person you need to become to do what you need to do to have the happiness you're looking for. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'm here. That QR code goes to a series of contacts, and if you want to send me an email, and I'll send you my reading list and some of my backup science materials. I guess you guys didn't know you were in for a science presentation today, but I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, absolutely. Next number, Les Mis. There was a question. I'm sorry. What was it? Yes.
I did have a question because you kind of struck on some of the things that I have that type of brain, just always working.
Yeah. Busy brain.
So, but I feel like what path or how did you get to that point where you realized your strength and how did you guide yourself towards achieving that? Because when you draw the SWOT analysis, I'm also that person who believes, you know what, just leave your weaknesses alone. Power of strength. Like, just power your strength so hard that it doesn't make your weaknesses reflect or you dedicate your weaknesses. So I'm at a point where I crossroads to say, you seem to be able to do a lot of things and say, well, what's that one thing that just go in this direction I just did?
So the way that I learned to meditate, and this might be the most valuable tool I give you today, I used the Headspace app. And even my children do it. We've been doing it for 3 years together every morning, and my youngest is now 8, which means she's been doing this since she was 5. If she can do it, you can do it. The Headspace app goes on a 10-day cycle, and there's 10 pods. And it starts with a heavily guided meditation, and then with each progression, the guidance fades away. And to the end, it's just like an opening thought, and then 10 minutes of silence and a closing thought. So now we don't even do that. We just set a timer, and we all lay down and meditate in the morning. And so the meditation practice was really valuable to me because I could then start talking to myself. I could then have a conversation. I could then assign emotional intelligence to the physical feelings of the emotions that I was having. I was able to say, where is that showing up in my body right now? My body feel like my stomach is tight. Why is my stomach tight? My stomach's tight because I'm clenched, because I'm stressed. Why am I stressed, right? So I just kept unpeeling that onion. And then I was able to say, okay, well, what brings me joy? If you look at Marie Kondo, Your Life, right? If you look at it and it doesn't bring you joy, toss it out, give it to somebody else. I did that with my life. I looked around and I was like, what do I just not like? And so when you're looking to answer your question, and I have to repeat the question for the microphone, is how did you figure out what is your one superpower and to not be working on the weakness, but to figure out the one thing that you really want to do? When working on your weaknesses takes more time than doing anything else in your life. So, for example, I'm not a details person. Do I need to sit there and start paying attention to all of the details? No, that's not the highest and best use of my time. Someone else can do that. Now, if I'm not a good communicator, that's something that's going to impact everything. And so if I do work on being a good communicator, that's going to make everything else in my life that's difficult easier or unnecessary. So when you're looking at your weaknesses, if it's going to push a boulder up a hill and take valuable time away from your superpowers, don't do it. If it's something that's going to cross the rest of your life, do it. And after having those conversations inside of your meditation space, go to the values exercise and figure that out. Because what happens is it requires you to really give it some thought. Well, why do I value adventure over family? I couldn't possibly say that my family isn't the most important thing to me. Well, it is, but you know what? I'm not going to jump out of bed to go feed my kids breakfast. Some days I just don't want to do that, right? But if there was a world-renowned chef in my kitchen, I would jump out of bed to watch breakfast get made for them. So having those conversations with yourself is, in my opinion, the best way to figure out the you that you are today and the you that you want to become. Did I answer your question? Okay. Any others? Okay, well, you're released.